Thank you. My name is Todd Sievert. I'm chairman of the Finance Committee. To my left is Councilman Schilling. To my right is Councilwoman Westfall. We are here today to talk about increasing the bidding authorization for the curbside recycling program. Before we get started, I have some information from discussions with Ms. Rhodes. I spoke with Mr. Frigge, Ms. Rhodes, and even Mr. Titterington today from Europe regarding elaborating upon this recommendation and report. And we were going to add some oral statements to it. I just want to confirm with Ms. if you want to come to the dais. I know everyone was somewhat surprised by these numbers when we got them back, and I know with Mr. Titterington leaving that there was some urgency on getting this report set forth to council, but I just want to clarify a few things with you, Jill, that I clarified today so that we can make an informed decision. Yep. This is actually a three-year contract with options for years 4 and 5, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the pro forma, which was not attached to this document, but it's my understanding from talking to Mr. Frigge as well as Mr. Titterington and yourself that there was going to be a $2.5 million capital to bring this in-house, and that was just for capital that would not have included the labor or other expenses that we would have incurred.
That did include the additional labor.
That did include the labor.
Yeah, that was the initial startup for the first year to bring that in-house with the equipment, the totes, and the additional labor.
Okay, it was $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and based upon, I guess basically the most important thing that I don't think was in here, and I don't know that it was intentionally left off, but if we follow through with this recommendation, even at the alternate bid numbers, it is not anticipated that we'll have any rate increases to the community.
Correct. No rate increase.
So we can follow through with this recommendation. I guess this is maybe more when we get to the comment section, but okay. we can do the 3-year contract, perform an analysis, determine whether we want to elect the options on years 4 and 5. Yes. And even if we elect the options on years 4 and 5, in absent some sort of catastrophic issue or something happen, it's the intent of the administration that there would be no rate increases over that 5-year period.
Correct.
Okay, and that's what Mr. Frigge, just so everyone's aware, that's also what Mr. Titterington and Mr. Frigge concluded today. Yeah. So, that said, with that sort of clarification, and I do appreciate your time today. I think we spent I think you spoke with some people, and I spoke with some people, and I know Mr. Frigge spent some time with you and with me today too. Yep. So I do think it's important that we vetted all of that out to make sure that everyone knew what was going forward. So I will now turn the dais over to you so you can follow up with my comments and basically where we were.
Yeah. So in the beginning of April, the staff came to you guys with a recommendation or a request to go out to bid for recycling like we had previously. In March, we had reviewed the pro forma and different options to look at, and from our financial, from the pro forma review, staff completed and reviewed with Patrick, that it was still the cheapest option to go external and bid the recycling and keep refuse in-house. So we went out to bid. We received bids on Wednesday, and we personally contacted and reached out to both Republic and Waste Management, and both of them said they did not serve this area. So we unfortunately only had one bid, Rumpke, that has bid repeatedly. I think they've always had our recycling contract, at least they have in the 11 years that I've been here. So they came back, we had asked originally for a cost not to exceed $535,000, and they came in with higher bids, and they did give us alternate bids. They gave us a base bid where the cost did not change over the 3 years. You guys can see that in your memo, the $632,000. And then they gave us an alternate bid where it started out with $568,000 some change and went up to $726,000. We're asking today for the authorization for all 5 years, but we are, staff is committing to, before the end of the 3rd year, to review the pro forma to ensure that we're still on track and that this is still our cheapest option. If it becomes at any point not our cheapest option, we would be looking at different alternatives then. And the alternatives being moving it all in-house, like saying status quo would be the first option, moving it all in-house would be another option, and then moving it all external would be the 3rd option. And we also, we looked at like bids that recently came in from Sydney, and that's how we performed that pro forma, talking about moving it all external. So we are requesting, like I had made the mention, authorization, an increase in authorization to $570 in the first year, all the way up to $730, just rounding it to even numbers for no other reason. And we are requesting that it be emergency. I will open it up to you guys for questions.
So if rates don't increase for 5 years, what kind of a jump do you anticipate it being 5 years from now? I mean, is it going to be a huge jump in 5 years? Will shock everyone?
No, I don't anticipate. I mean, we would be looking at the rates. I didn't actually do that analysis. We don't know what that next contract will be. But I don't anticipate it would be a huge jump. And if it comes to fruition that it does need to be a huge jump, we would most certainly be looking at it at that 3 year and be talking to council about a rate increase and to even it out. The last thing that we want to do is make a drastic change in rates.
Okay.
And currently, even if we go to the 726, 103.56 under the alternate bid, under the 5th year option contract, we would have the sufficient resources. The math that you guys did would indicate that we can cover that without any significant increases.
Yep.
Or any increase.
Yes, any increase, yes.
Mr. Schilling, any questions?
Let me see that. Did we have you said you went to the 3-year contract where it goes up every year?
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about, the total cost for that 3-year contract?
The 3-year contract where the alternate bid, as it's shown in the alternate bid, where it increases annually, is a $1.812 million contract. If we did the 3-year, the base bid that they submitted for the 632 and some change, that was the first 3 years was 1.896.
Okay, so it's better to do the step rate then.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason I didn't get this, but anyway. Okay, that's great. That's my only question I had.
Okay.
And just so I'm clear, the startup, if we did it on our own, was 2.5.
Yep.
And then what would it be? What would the cost be per year after that?
Well, that kind of, when you 5-year pro forma, it kind of puts you in a hole for that 5-year pro forma because of the 2.5 startup cost. So you never really recover by the time that you go to purchase another vehicle.
Okay.
Okay.
So it would need purchased in 5 years?
It would be 7 years, but it was actually, the difference was it was over $1.5 million in difference at the end of that 5 years. If you look at our status quo versus, it was a $1.5 million shortfall.
Okay.
And so by the time that we would be able to gain that $1.5 million, and you're still saying status quo is cheaper over that 5 years by $1.5 million, so about 300,
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Well, and I think another important point is we will look at this over the 3 years, but the current contract, and this is, I mean, we started this in February, so it's not real, other than we were shocked by the bids. We really have to accept something right now, or else we would lose recycling at the end of May, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And our contract expires at the end of May, so really this is potentially a stopgap as well to determine which way is gonna be more productive in the future.
Yeah.
Any other council members have any Mr. Schilling?
Yeah, Mrs. Rhodes, one other question I just,
Mhm.
think about, if it's cheaper for Rumpke to pick up our recycling, it would stand to my logic, which is never good, but it would stand to my logic, it would be cheaper for them to pick up our trash as well.
So, I had mentioned, and I stopped myself, we had compared like the Sydney recycling and refuse. Well, we've never put recycling and refuse out together, and I don't think that's necessarily the intention. The base rate for Sydney was higher than our fees to the residents. The base rate the bid that they got from Rumpke was higher than our fee to the residents.
That's part of what but as Jules said earlier, that's part of what they're going to look at
Yep.
holistically, is whether it's collectively, or you, what was your term? You used an engineering term, but whether it's everything together, whether we compartmentalize it, or whether we do it part in-house and part out of
Yeah,
house.
status quo.
Status quo.
Yeah.
Technical terms.
Technical
Engineering terms.
And I know we looked at this about 10 years ago, right, to do the various trash collections. Didn't we do a study on this about 10 years ago?
Well, we kind of, yeah, it's been about 10 years, 7 to 10 years, yeah, when
Okay.
and we've kind of been monitoring and updating it, but yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah.
Any council members? Mr. Pierce?
Thank you. This is significantly higher expected.
Uh-huh.
Are other cities seeing the same increase as well
Yes,
with other providers?
yes. Sydney has Rumpke, I believe it was Rumpke. And then, yeah, Vandeo just got, bid back in, and I'm not for sure, I don't know for sure if that was Rumpke or not, and they were seeing 20 to 30% increases. We were hoping we were gonna see more than 20%, because our contract had been increasing every year, and so that's what we felt that we were hoping that we would see less because of that, but it didn't come to fruition.
Now, you said you'd reached out to Republic to find out if they serviced our area,
Yeah,
and they said that they didn't.
yes, as well as Waste Management.
And who do they service around here then?
I think Republic I don't think they have a contract right now, but I think they, a couple years ago were doing Tip City. And you see Republic cans, Republic's kind of a blue can, and so we thought, and they're a known waste management company, so, and I think that they have, even though everything would have to be taken to the transfer station, that's to follow the county rules, they have, I think they have, up around Bell Fountain, they have a landfill, so we thought that they may be interested, but they both, said they wouldn't bid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other council members? Mr. Phillips?
Do we know why the giant increase?
I haven't sat down and talked to the Rumpke representative, because I was even gonna ask how they, sorted out the two bids, how they decided, and she had made the mention when I did talk to her today, that they obviously have a pro forma as well, and so I was asking her, and she said, well, I don't actually run that. So I was planning on, after this, kind of sitting down and talking to them about, the increase and, why it seems so drastic. But she also talked about, their improvements to they have a recycling facility in Dayton. They're the only one in the area that does have a recycling facility, so that is where they're hauling the recycling. And then she talked about, the improvements and the infrastructure that they have to maintain as well. So, I think it's a good option. It just took us a little bit by surprise.
All right, that's all I have, thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody in the public? So in summary, we can, I'm sorry. Steve, I barely saw your finger up there, I'm sorry.
Which finger was it, by the way?
You need to set over one more chair. You can barely see over that,
That's on purpose,
the
too.
diet.
Steve Hendrickson at 975 Dickerson. a fundamental question that's, I suspect Rumpke is running into the same problem we see elsewhere. The value of recycling stuff has gone down. The value of paper and cardboard is probably zero. Plastic is not much more than that. There's some controversial studies that are saying that recycling plastic is just a waste of time. You just ought to throw it away. So I think the question is, instead of buying a new recycling truck, why don't you buy another garbage truck and just put it all in the landfill? Now, I understand the Boy Scouts aren't going to like it, and a lot of people aren't going to like it. I understand it. But from a dollar standpoint, think about it. I mean, what is it we're trying to do? I live on the same planet you all do, so I'm trying to say, okay, I like the green stuff. I like the idea of recycling. But at a certain point, is it worth it? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think there's a room full of people that don't know the answer to that either. So before we commit to a lot of money, let's think it through. That's my only point.
And I think that's valid, Steve. I think that's part of the whole 3-year analysis that everybody is going to. We're kind of at, because I had similar conversations with different people today, and one of the questions is, or one of the answers I got back were, this contract expires May 30th or whatever, at the end of this month. So the issue is, do you go back and try to negotiate a 1-year contract while we do this analysis, and that's going to be significantly higher than where we are right now? And actually, if you do the math on the first 3 years, it's not nearly as bad as it goes from 568 to 726 in year 5. So we have 3 years here to sort of do some in-depth analysis to answer questions like that. What is the benefit? I would maybe disagree. I think a strong number of citizens and participate in the recycling program.
Well,
we did do that
I think
study
we
at
all
one point
do.
in time.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying from a dollar standpoint, does it make sense economically?
Yeah.
You know, we're all here to try to save the planet.
Yeah.
But at what point, at what cost?
Yeah.
And I suspect Rumpke is saying the same thing. They're not running a charity. They're trying to make money.
Yeah. And that's what. And so basically, how I viewed this one in summary is, we have 3 years. Jill and her team are going to look to see what's the most prudent way going forward. And it might be, as Jeff indicated, maybe it's bringing everything all contracted. Maybe it's bringing everything in-house. Maybe it's maintaining the status quo. But the issue we have currently before us is we need to do something now to give us some time to finalize those analysis, because right now the numbers don't work out, but maybe by the time you're at 7, if they follow this number 5-10 years from now, because I did the math and don't quote me on it, but it's like almost 1.4 million by the time you're at 10 years from now, if they follow the same math out. And with those numbers, it may be better, but again, there's issues. You know, I thought, could you reuse trucks? I brought that question up, and you really can't reuse trucks because it just becomes a safety hazard, and there's requirements, and they're just not able to just sort of be recycled, for lack of a better term, to go to a different program. So we would have to buy trucks, even if we took the current refuse trucks and made those to recycle trucks, we would have to replace it. So I think your idea is what worthy of consideration, and I can tell you that I think that that's part of what, if I'm fortunate enough, and the members here beside me and other members of council are fortunate enough to be here in 3 years, when we get the answers back, I can tell you we'll be monitoring this. And Jill and I had a lengthy talk that says, hey, in 3 years we want to know what these numbers are. But I think everybody was just kind of shocked because it's just not been the way that,
There's gonna be more shocks in the future, because as I said, the recycling is not a good business to be in.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna get better.
Well, and as somebody who lived out in the country for 30 years before moving into town, we didn't have recycling. We took it to 25A ourselves. So
Right.
it's not that far, it's not that inconvenient. So, you know, the people that are gonna recycle are gonna keep doing it.
Right.
I would guarantee you.
Exactly. Okay, I don't have anything else. Do you have any?
no, thanks, Mr. Pierce.
He did ask a question about how much it cost. Is it worth it? And I think it is, but we don't have the exact dollars in front of us. Can you get back with us on that, Jill, and find out what kind of premium we're paying to, for the recycling? 'Cause it's not the, I know we have these, but we'd have to pay to get rid of trash anyways. If that didn't go in recycling, it'd be trash, then that would increase our cost.
fee is? Is that what you're asking?
How much extra we have to pay because we're not just throwing it in the trash, but it is being recycled.
Yeah, I can look into that.
I appreciate that.
You're talking about like the tipping fee, the cost? That's what I'm just trying to understand,
Oh.
make sure I understand your question. Like he said, throwing it in the trash versus recycling it.
Right, so
Okay.
if somebody has, say, 30-gallon bin
Mhm.
for trash, and
Mm-hmm,
that's really small, but another 5 gallons for recycling.
Yeah.
Then if they put all that in the trash, it'd be 35 gallons.
right?
So that would then increase the amount of trash we have going out.
It would. A lot of recycling though is light. So, what we estimated, because we knew the tonnage, when we looked at bringing, I mean, this is kind of getting into the weeds, but when we looked at bringing everything in-house and we would be paying that tonnage to the county transfer station, it was, just for that tonnage, it was $150,000 in that first year.
Okay.
For assuming a certain recycling, like close to what an increase from last year, increase of tonnage from last year just slightly, but it was about 150,000. Is that
Okay.
what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
asking.
Okay,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Mr. Phillips?
Well, additionally, Jill, excuse me, are we legally, Are
Thanks,
we-
Steve.
are we legally obligated to have a recycling program?
I don't know that we're legally obligated. I think it's kind of in the world of the environment, right? When you talk about, I mean, if you look at a box that you get from Amazon, I'm sure it says made from a certain amount of recycled material. I think a lot of things, I don't think that we're required to recycle, but I do think that federal government probably has stepped in and highly encourages, like, businesses, you hear it all the time, to use so much recycled material for their products. But I don't know that we are legally required to recycle.
Anybody else have any further comments?
I have another one.
Okay.
Do we receive any grants for recycling, or do we carry that full cost ourselves?
We do not receive any grants, typically.
And just to reiterate, we can do all of this without increasing fees. So,
Correct.
thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, Mr. Schilling, how do you wish to proceed?
Well, yeah, I think we have to go forward on this, and an emergency, recommendation on that. I don't think we have any other choice.
I agree.
No, I'm sorry,
I agree.
okay, thank you.
Is this your bad ear?
No, I just, so, okay, well, then we'll have a unanimous recommendation that we will go forward with this as emergency legislation.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned?
Huh?
Is your meeting adjourned?
I can't hear.
Meeting
Oh.
adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.